I don't think everybody can jump in the way we did with, a tear down or a fixer upper at this level. And again, I think that even our real estate agent says, I've seen a lot of people think they can jump in. She said, you guys jumped in. Sorry, Bug. You guys jumped in and you guys are really good at what you do.
Hi, I'm Wyatt. And I'm Grace. And you're listening to our dad and your host of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore. We're back with our Friday interview episodes with short-term rental investors willing to share the ups and downs of the journey into short-term rental investing. And today we've got Mia and Doug Walker. Guys, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to talk about your journey and share your story with everybody.
Thanks for having us. We're both excited to share our story. And it's been a journey.
Awesome. Yeah, this has been a fun one. I told you guys before we hit record, this type of property is like my type of property. We're going to talk about, the acreage and the farmhouse, but you guys had quite the journey on getting it to where it is today. And so we want to talk about that. Before we dive into that, I always love to get the backstory. What pays the bills? Where are you guys from? What do we do? And why do we get interested in short-term rental investing in the first place?
Sure. I'll go first. I have always been in the aesthetic business industry. So I sell medical grade skincare or devices to like plastic surgeons, derms, that type of thing. So in sales, traveling all the time. So that's what I do to my 9-to-5 job.
Okay. What about you, Doug?
You're up.
Okay. I've had a very eclectic background. I started out as a school teacher, but my true passion was construction. So I get to share my passion with my wife and do the work. So it probably costs us a little bit more money than if we had someone else do it, according to my wife. I always got to get a new tool or something,
Right.
But so I taught school for about 10 years, and then I floundered around a little bit, and then I got back into construction, and I like doing the work. So she tells me what to do, and I do it.
That's good. That's a great relationship. It's like one person tells you what to do and the other one doesn't. Now it messes up if you don't do what she says, though, Doug, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very good project manager.
She is.
Yeah. Awesome. So what, any real estate investing experience in your past, or what got you interested in running down this road in the first place?
No experience, I would say.
We've always bought like kind of a house that needed help, in the past, and made money off of it. That'd be about the only experience we've had. It hasn't been like a focus of ours until recently.
Yeah.
We've always had a passion, though, I will say, of, like Doug said, finding something that's not, as people always say when they list a house, remodeled. We want to go in and make it our own. We both have a real passion. I get to play Joanna, he's Chip, kind of thing, where I can come up with the ideas. We're a good partnership in that. So we've always tried to find something that we can kind of make our own. Yeah. And then the short-term piece of it was really, I think partially our age and the fact that we love to start and finish something. And so being able to do this, finding something and getting into the short-term rental piece of it, and making it our own, that we know we would want to use, and that, that people like us would want to use, kind of the same focus. So yeah, we love a project where, we have friends that golf, we have friends that run marathons, we remodel and fix up homes.
Yeah. Sounds like Teresa and I. That's what we just did forever. Like, we've lived in 23 homes in almost 25 years of marriage, and we've been in the last 2 for about 12 years of that. So you can imagine how much we were moving around in the beginning. And so it was, that was our pastime as well. So you enjoy that part of it. And, with, like you said, you get to play Joanna, Doug gets to play Chip, and put these projects together. And then you started to say, hey, maybe we'll keep one. Maybe we'll keep this property. Maybe we'll start to build this rather than flipping it or moving out of it. We start to turn it into and build a portfolio of short-term rentals. And so was there anything that led you down that path, or was it just kind of, hey, listen, we started thinking about this and there's no reason to get rid of these properties at this stage?
Well, when we travel, we stay in Airbnbs most of the time and enjoy it. And, we've stayed in some iffy ones along the way, but most of the time, and we have a group that we travel with, about 5 couples. So we kind of built this house for that type of group.
Right.
And then, but we just that's kind of what led us to think that we could do it. We know how to remodel, and we'd like to create experiences wherever we go. And one thing that our group likes to do when we get together is cook. So we wanted a good kitchen to cook in. So we kind of built a really nice kitchen here to entertain, and it works out. You know?
So how did you, and we'll talk about, like, because one of the biggest things that people are always saying, like, where should I buy? Like, where's the perfect market? Like, where's the best location? Like, how'd you guys land on that? I know we, in our group, we talk about that a lot, but typically I always point you in the direction of saying, hey, where do you want it? Where do you want to own? Right? And was that where it was for you guys?
So it was 2019. So COVID hadn't happened yet. And that I turned 50 that year, and it was Doug's and my 25th wedding anniversary. And we threw this big party at this really great venue that was a barn and like a farmhouse. And it was just, I just loved everything about it. And so then we had just wrapped up the house that we had been working on and living and raising our kids in, the last of them, the last of the houses. And so I started just looking around. So there wasn't really an area, Shawn. It was just kind of like just got on Zillow or wherever and just started looking and looking. And again, we look for the dud. I mean, because we found the dud. So I found this house, and so we raised our kids in Grand Rapids, Michigan for 20 years. So on the west side of Michigan, and where the farmhouse is about an hour south along the lake shore. And I found it, and I loved that. I think we both agreed that because we have to do so much of the work ourselves, we choose to, and it's affordable for that way for us, is we can't be 4 hours away. So this was somewhat doable being an hour away. So we found it, and we looked at it. Do you want me to keep going with that story?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where we're trying to lead, right?
So it was
a tear down.
It was a tear down. I mean, it was a tear down. It was scary looking. We brought my parents to see it. My dad looked at us and said,
"We brought our group of friends that we travel with to see it too," and they said, "Anyone but you guys, we would doubt to purchase, but with you guys, you'll do it.
Do it." So it was. I mean, it's on 10 acres. And we happen to own the 16 acres now next door as well. It's all beautiful and wooded. But this house, I mean, we rebuilt the house. There's no doubt about it. So I found this house in 2020 before COVID. We sold our house in Grand Rapids 3 days before the lockdown. Moved into bought the farmhouse because we had to pay cash for it because nobody was going to.
No financing. Yep.
And then we moved into a rental home of some friends of ours while our daughter finished her senior year. We already had another one at college. And we couldn't have lived in this house. I mean, so we drove back and forth, Doug more than I did, and for a year, and got it to a position where we could move in. I wouldn't say it was, ready to live in, but we moved in then in July of 2021. And it took us a couple more years to finish it. I mean, it's just, how it is. It's like, open a wall and there's one more thing, just craziness.
Yeah, it was a complete gut down to studs and rebuild it back up.
So huge project. And it's funny because we've done a lot of those projects, and we've like you hit the nail on the head. Everybody, when you find those, everybody wants a value add property, right? They always want to talk about, like, hey, I want this property that I can add value to and redo some of this. And then I've got some nice equity at the end of the day. But nobody really wants a value add property when you show it to them, right? You show it to them and everybody's like, are you crazy? Like, this thing is garbage, right?
Well, and I also think people watch so many TV shows and think that they can do it. And
there's so much more involved than a lot of people think, right? And another thing that some of our listeners have heard me say, a lot of our Vodacy family has heard me say, that it really doesn't matter whether you buy these properties in your backyard or across the country, the way we get them set up and manage them and everything else. However, there's a huge asterisk on that when you choose a project like this. You do want them closer. And like you said, you didn't want it to be 4 hours away, a plane ride away. You want to be a lot more accessible and available when you're tackling a huge project like that. Because even the best laid plans, even when it's a huge project, my guess is you dove into it and you're like, it's bigger than you thought. Like you said, every wall you take out, you're like, well, we got to do that now. Well, we didn't expect that until we pulled that wall down or opened up that door. Yeah. And so, take me through that process, because a lot of people, they want the end result, and we're going to show people your property at the end of this, and it turned out amazing. And that's what people want. But I like people to walk into the game and the process with their eyes wide open, why I love these conversations. It's not always that fun in the middle of it, is it?
No, not at all. No, I just always said it was, labor of love. And in the end, it was just labor. I mean, there was not a lot of, we could never see the end. I mean, the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, because I am the project manager, I had, pages of lists, by room, by outdoor, by this. And it was exhausting and overwhelming. And we also both changed jobs during that process as well. So, there was just like one more thing added to the list of, change. But, we just went day by day and weekend by weekend and put a lot of, we have really good vision. We can walk into somewhere and be like, we can walk into, not to be judgy of, someone else's house or an event or something. And, instantly be like, we changed this, we changed that. I always laugh because I say, most people, distracted drivers, are like, because they're eating a sandwich or they're, playing with the radio. It's because we are looking like left to right at homes, like, oh my God, that'd be great to get a hold of. What we do with that one if we could get a hold of it? We always are doing that.
Right. And so in the middle of it, it is hard, because I've remodeled almost over 300 homes over my career. So that's a lot of homes and you really don't see it even in the middle of it. We can be 95% done and close to being to the finish line, and people will still walk in and say, I just don't see it. I just don't get it. Right. Mm-hmm. And until they see the finished product, and then they're like, oh man, I can't believe you can see that through that. And that's a skill set that you guys have, which makes some of these projects, it helps you get to the finish line, because if you don't have that, you're just like, holy crap, what did we do? And we still say that. I say that in the middle of every remodel. Every remodel, and then I say I'm never going to do another one until it's finished, and then I pick another one, right? So it's just part of the process, right?
But you do, yes. But I think now that we're on to our second one, much smaller project than this, we're moving right along on this one. I do think that, you learn from every experience. You learn what you really need to spend your money on, and you learn, what people want. It's just kind of different, like everything, like I said, but I think we've learned so much from this farmhouse experience to go on to our next project, with just, smarter decisions, just different things. So I think we're learning in that aspect of it for sure. There's no doubt about it. So,
when you went into the project, right? Like a lot of real estate investors that are even like the fix and flippers that really do have that vision, typically they have the vision of how the property is going to come together. When did you really start to layer on the vision of what that experience for the guest? You hit on it in the very beginning of the conversation, saying, listen, we started thinking about this because we travel with our friend group, and there's just like nothing available that we really want to hang out in, and we really want to go and enjoy. And so that vision sounded like the experience was part of that vision from the beginning, but it's not always. And so I'm curious, was it or wasn't it, or when did it come about where you really started kind of focusing on that as well as the vision for the home itself?
I'd say from the very beginning, don't you think?
From the beginning. I think we, always have in the back of our mind is, would we want to stay here when we look at a place? Mm-hmm. Would we want, or what could we make it a place that we want to stay at? This farmhouse, I'll hopefully own it till the day I die, because of all the sweat I put into it. It's kind of, it became like a personal mission of mine to get it done and make it what it is today. Yep. And it was way more work than I anticipated, even though I have quite a bit of experience doing the work, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
Still a lot. Yeah.
But I think, to your point, I think that we always sat there and knew that every time we, no matter what we were doing, whether it was fun or not, we always had that thought process in mind of, like Doug said, would we want to stay here? And we keep going back to this group of friends that we travel with a lot, and what we love to do with them and places we love to stay. And we often, would say, this is, our group would like this. This is, why we would do that. So, and I think the experience, it's really, yes, we all stroll through, Vrbo and in Airbnb and looking at, certain things. But again, it's really like you always talk about in Vodacy, it's about creating the experience and a point of difference. So it's been from the very, very beginning, I would say, for sure.
Yeah. And that's what, and that's why I was curious, because it's so important, right? We sell experiences. We don't sell properties, right? And so to be able to think about that from the very beginning and really curate it as you're putting the property together. And then Doug, you said something that I think everybody who does a remodel should have this attitude of, hey, I'm doing this with the intention of keeping this property forever. Not every fix and flipper does that. Not every remodeler does that because they're like, hey, I'm just going to put lipstick on a pig and resell this thing. I think you add the most value to the property by having the attitude you're going to keep it forever. You guys really are going to keep this hopefully forever, right? But you do make different decisions, and that's where some of that, you dive a little deeper into uncovering problems and fixing the problems on the front end. It's a lot more preventative, maintenance, if you will, where you're like, I'm going to do this now so I don't have to in the future. But you make those decisions because, and it is more time consuming and it is more expensive in the middle of it when you have the attitude of, I'm going to be keeping this forever, so I'm going to do this now. Right? Versus somebody that is just doing a fix and flip that's gonna pass the problem off to somebody else, which again, I don't necessarily agree with that, but there's a lot of people who just do that. But would you agree that you do, like, it does become a little bit more expensive when you're going to keep these properties and you have to have a contingency on your budget to get through to the finish line?
Yeah, I always do it to code or better. I always make sure everything is to code or better, usually better than code. Because, and you've ran into it more than I have with 300 houses under your belt. I run into stuff all the time that people did themselves, and I'm like, ugh.
What were you thinking?
So if I sell a place, I don't want someone to question my work. I want them to realize that he went above and beyond what he had to do. And that's just how I approach every house, even if I'm looking at staying there for 3 to 5 years. I don't want someone to untangle a mess that I created.
Right. Well, go ahead, Mia.
I think when you talked about the cost piece of it, I do think that I don't think everybody can jump in the way we did with a tear down or a fixer upper at this level. And again, I think that even our real estate agent says, I've seen a lot of people think they can jump in. She said, you guys jumped in. Sorry, bug. You guys jumped in, and you guys are really good at what you do. You see the details. You can, you create something amazing and do it well. But there's a huge cost to it as well. Yeah. I mean, I think that we did this during COVID. Doug would come home with like a trailer full of wood, and he'd be like, 6 months ago, this would have cost $600. Now it was, what, $1,800?
We did a construction loan on it because we had to buy the house for cash and then do a construction loan. I bid out the decking for the front porch, just normal pressure treated wood from Lowe's. It was $600 when I quoted it out. When I finally got around to buying it, because I didn't need it at that time, It was $1,600. Almost 3 times as much as what we anticipated. So there's always going to be cost overruns, but that was a little bit crazy.
COVID was crazy. I mean,
the time frame you were doing it, there was just skyrocketing material costs, right? And but there is always those contingencies. And this is why I love these conversations. And I'm kind of hitting this point home, like maybe deeper than a lot of people care to hear about if you're not thinking about a remodel. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who think that a remodel is the right way to go because they can buy a property for, at a discount. Ultimately, they put the money and time into it, and then they've got some built-in equity when they're finished. However, there's costs in both time. It's going to take you longer than you think. There's a cost in money. Your best laid plans on budgets are going to have overages. You need to have contingencies there. I always baked in about a 15 to 20% contingency when we were doing the majority of our rehabs. If you tried to do one in the time frame you guys did, I mean, we were seeing people bust their budgets by 30 or 40% because material was going up that fast in the middle of the time they were doing it, right? Yeah. And then there's also the experience piece, the skill sets, the knowledge that you have to really tackle a project like this. If you've never done it, it's you can walk into a buzzsaw really fast if you don't know what you're doing. And so I think it's really, I love having these conversations with people who actually went through it. Because even though you've done it before, even with the construction background, the project management side of it, that you guys are really dialed in, and the design side and the vision that you've got, it's still more expensive and time consuming than you think. And like your real estate agent said, I have seen a lot of people tackle a project like this, not be able to get to the finish line, and it's devastating for them.
Mhm.
And so we're always really like on the front end of these types of projects when somebody's going into it, it's like, okay, like let's make sure every T is double crossed, every I is triple dotted, and that we really want to do this. Now, after saying that, I will ask you, is it worth it? Like, how do you feel like at the end of the day, the finished product and everything else? Because we're making it sound like, oh, don't ever do this, but there's a reason we keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
It's 100% worth it in my opinion. I don't know how.
I will say, again, gets very nerve wracking as you're getting ready to, go live with it, and it's your passion. I mean, this has been a passion project for us. And so, you're like, is everybody going to love it as much as we love it? Are we going to get 5 stars right away? All of those things. So it is a little nerve wracking, but the minute you do it, and I mean, literally, we went live on July 22nd, and we had bookings from July 24th all the way through Labor Day weekend. I mean, just nonstop. I mean, we were booked, and we've gotten 5-star reviews. So, it's that pat on the back. It does boost your ego when people give you amazing reviews that say, I could give 5 stars, if I could give more than 5 stars, or every detail was so perfect, or my family needed exactly this. So I would say 100% that this has definitely met our expectations of what we put into it and what we're, getting out of it and hope to get out of it in the future for sure. And it's funny because, obviously we don't live here anymore, but around the corner, I mean, I'll come back, I'll talk with the cleaning team when they come in and stuff like that. And there's just something I pull in, and it's just, again, I think to myself, I love this place so much. It just is so pretty, and I just love it. Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with the front porch. The front porch is amazing. It's a great place to drink your morning coffee and your afternoon bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. When do I get the invite? I mean,
anytime. It's a great area. That is for sure.
Fun.
Yeah.
I think a great place for short-term rentals along Lake Michigan, anywhere along Lake Michigan on our side of the lake. Just, I mean, the potential, the tourists just keep flooding up from Chicago.
Yeah.
Indianapolis and stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great location. And
major metro area feeding your location, which is huge, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I love, it's funny, every time I have these conversations and we kind of get toward the end of and we talk about the launch and we ask if it was worth it, it's the validation is never like, I don't know how many times in, the 200 plus episodes I've run on this, I can count on one hand where the validation was the money we're making, and that's not to be ignored, but it's the first thing that people always get this huge hit of dopamine on, and this big high is those reviews and the saying your property is amazing, every detail, right? Just like what you were saying, Mia, if I could give more than 5 stars, I would. And when we get that kind of feedback, we're like, oh man, all that work was worth it. And it's funny how that, because we're in the experience business and somebody shares that back with us, that we really helped create this great memory for them and they appreciate it. There's a lot of validation, right? It's that pat on the back. It's like, hey, listen, you did a great job. And that's sometimes more, feels better than the money that we're putting in our bank account. And now we all do this for investments. We want these properties to make money. It's not like we're trying to be a charity out there. Don't get us wrong. But it's funny how that is almost resoundingly what when I have these interviews, what the owners say is their biggest kind of high is getting that feedback.
Oh yeah, it's a good boost to your ego. That you've worked hard and you've done hard, and someone says you did it right. So that is definitely a big part. And I will say Vodacy played a big part. We joined Vodacy
a long time ago.
I can't remember if we bought the house and then joined Vodacy, or joined Vodacy and then bought the house. But so we went through the whole program and things like that. But then, we were years out of finishing this place.
Yeah. It was a tough market because we needed to find a place to live so we could rent the place that we're living in out. So, and it was just a crazy market around here. I'm sure everywhere. But I mean, we were going in on houses 20,000 over asking, 30,000 over asking, and getting beat on every one of them. Like we didn't belong in that game. Right. And then we finally found this house around the corner from us very early. Mia saw him putting the sign up and literally called instantly.
I did. I drove by. It was an early morning. I was heading out for work, And I saw this little cottage 2 miles around the corner from the farmhouse, and and I saw the sign, and I thought, oh, I'll call my real estate agent later. And I turned back around. I thought, it's not going to be there. So I turned back around, took a picture of the sign, called her, and she said it hasn't even listed yet. I said, I want to see it. We saw it, put an offer in, and other people did too. Of course, we put a higher offer in, but somebody put in an offer for cash. They got it, and the woman who was selling it said, well, if anything happens, you are the next to get it. We won't relist it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And like 4 or 5 days later, our real estate agent called us, and she said, you're not going to believe it. She said, the woman backed out that bought it. It is yours if you want it. So, everything happens for a reason. But yeah, it's been a tough market to find the next thing, but this is perfect for us.
What was the timing of that acquisition? This is property number 2. What was the timing of that one? When did you buy that one?
This a couple months ago.
Just barely, yeah. And so, and that's why I just wanted to clarify. That's what I thought too. But where we were talking about, during COVID, and I think people assume that the markets are easier to find properties right now. Good markets and quality assets are really tough. Inventory is still really, really low. It's one of the biggest challenges we have right now is finding good quality assets that hit the market and we can actually get our hands on. And so this one is project number 2. Is it going to be that long of a project? You said it's a little bit smaller house, so it won't be not nearly as extensive.
No, we're rocking and rolling right now.
We're hoping to hit the market for season next year, which would be summertime. Like
good.
Hopefully it'll be up
end of May by Memorial Day. Yeah, for sure. So no, we are. Yeah, I always said after the farmhouse, I don't know if I could ever do a project that big again. I'm getting too old, but you know how that happens. You find the next thing, and
you'll forget about it. Give it enough time, you'll forget it, and then be like, hey, let's do that again.
I know, but yeah, so that's been. But yeah, I will say that this one's going to be.
It's going really quick.
Going really quick.
It's been, it's just so small compared to this one.
Yeah.
And the amount of work, it's not a total gut or anything. We're just changing floors out, and we're pulling the kitchen and redoing bathroom.
We're redoing everything.
A lot, yeah. Still a good remodel.
But it's just a smaller scale. It just feels like it's going a lot quicker too.
It's 950 square feet, so it's tiny.
Yeah.
So just like the little cottage, a different experience, different target audience, right? Like couples or a small family that's going to come in and enjoy kind of the same, probably. Like the profit drivers are the same, right? Like Michigan and being able to come enjoy the same area and all that stuff, right?
All downtown of Saugatuck and Douglas, all that. Yeah, for sure. Same thing. Just probably, not 12. We can sleep 12 people here at the farmhouse, and there we'll sleep 4, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Good. I'm interested to see what happens with, a smaller little cottage as well.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love like some of my favorite properties are the small properties. I love having those smaller properties. You can only maximize the revenue so much, but you're also your acquisition cost, your all-in cost is less, and so the returns can be every bit as good as a larger property. But you also have, especially in a seasonal market like you're in, that you'll find that smaller property is going to do. You'll get that shoulder season. You're going to have a higher occupancy during the shoulder season. You're going to have those people that are coming in last minute just for the weekend to get away and still come up to the area, even though, they're not doing lake activities necessarily in the wintertime. Those small properties still draw people in throughout the year. And you have a lot less of a shoulder season effect like you would on a larger property.
I agree.
So
100%.
it's fun to have that mix in a portfolio. And I think you'll notice that next year.
I also love the design piece of it. Like it's totally going to be different than what we're doing with, what we did with the farmhouse. And again, I'm super passionate about, seeing the vision and what we can do and, spending money on fun stuff.
And I put the work boots on and get to work.
Hey,
right.
I paint. I help put floor in. So I just
nice. So you can't take all the credit there, Doug.
He gets a lot of it.
Yeah. I do about 10% of it though. So the fun stuff. That's for
when
sure.
When it comes to swapping all the toilets, so it'll be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not getting involved in toilets. No, that's Doug's.
Nope.
Love it. Well, I can't wait to see this one come to life as well. It'll be really fun, and it's and such a successful launch on a huge project that finally came to fruition. And we're still in that launch phase, right? We're still refining everything and going through that. But it's nice to get that first validation and those bookings coming in and that money starting to come in on a property that has just been money going out for a long time, which is always a nice thing, right?
Yes, for sure.
It was a little bit surprising for that last push to get it exactly ready, how much more money we had to spend on it. You're like, oh, dang.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah. Like with the furnishings and the accessories and getting it all just looking how you want it. Right.
Little
Exactly.
stuff, we had lived in here, for a couple of years, but there was just still like little things that I was just like, oh, gotta buy this, oh, gotta buy that.
Yeah.
So, and we had went back through the whole Vodity course again.
Love it. Awesome. I love the advice. And it's a very common piece of advice that all of us would love to go tell our younger self. Just get started sooner, right? Just get doing it faster, right? We're always so worried about making a mistake. And Mia, you touched on it as well, that we think that we've got to have everything lined up and everything perfect. I can promise you it's never perfect. I've been doing this for a long time. There's never a perfect project. There's never a perfect area. There's never a perfect property. I wouldn't say that there's one property that's actually changed my life ever significantly. But what does change is getting started and starting to do this and starting to stack assets and really just getting going and making sure that you're making progress every single day. And then being able to look back a couple of years and saying, holy crap, look what I just did, similar to the construction project, right, Doug, where you're like, hey, at the end of the day, I can see what I did. And we feel like that now, right? Like you're looking back and saying, man, this was a long project. I don't know if I'll do another, year and a half, 2 year long project again, but it was like when I said, was it worth it? You're both like, yeah, 100%. It was awesome. It's absolutely worth it. So I really appreciate the advice. It's always fun to have these conversations. Again, thank you guys so much. And those of you listening, we're going to wrap up today. And we always appreciate your time. We know how valuable it is, and we appreciate you spending it with us. Our goal is to help you walk into this game with your eyes wide open. And I know that these conversations are so helpful because a lot of you leave us comments and reviews about these absolute interviews that we just have candid conversations with people just like you that are getting into this game. So hopefully you got some value out of that. If you did, I always ask you 2 favors. The first one is we don't run any ads or sponsorships. So the only way this show grows is if you guys share it. So if you know somebody else that would like to be a part of these conversations and wants to learn a little bit more about short-term rental investing, listen to awesome people like me and Doug talk about their journey, share the show. Those things help us grow. And then if you have more than 30 seconds, like it or review it on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And the final, most important thing that I challenge you at the end of every episode is pick that one thing you can do today to start building that life you don't want to take a vacation from. Cheers, my friends.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website?
Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.